You're listening to Storage Nerds Podcast, where we unravel the best kept secret of the real estate investing world, the storage industry. Join the grassroots guru in self-storage, Stacy Rossetti, in insightful discussions about finding, funding, and running these spaces, allowing you to yield the highest returns possible. Get your foot in the door on self-storage and discover how to properly purchase facilities, negotiate with sellers, and close the deal without worries. Start unpacking that investment wisdom with Stacy right now.
All right, welcome. Okay, so I'm here. Let's get started. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me today. I'm Stacy Rossetti. I teach you how to get your foot into the storage industry. If you want to learn how to invest in self-storage, I will help you do that. I help newbies get their foot in the door, especially those that really can't afford a lot, right? So typically people that follow me are people that can maybe afford $1 million or less, or maybe $2 million or less facilities. So if you're that person, you want to figure out if getting into self-storage is what you want to do. And then if you can't afford huge, big facilities, then you're in the right place. You're in the right place. That's what I do. I teach people how to invest in self-storage. So, okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to do some management stuff. All right. Because I just had a management meeting like right before you guys, and we were discussing a couple things. So I figured that we could talk about that today. And the way that I do my trainings is I do like find them, fund them, run them. I kind of switch that up every single week. So it's never ever the same content on the Wednesday trainings. It's just kind of like whatever's happening in my life or whatever's happening in my students' life. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about management, which is the running part. And I do offer a course. It's called Find Them, Fund Them, Run Them. And it's like a 3-hour course. Just kind of get your foot in the door. I think it's like less than $50. So I know a lot of people listen to me. And I have a bigger course, which is called Super Simple Self Storage, which is kind of more expensive, and it's like all encompassing, and it's like 100 videos, and it has a whole bunch of stuff with it. And so that's available. That is really going to get you started. But if you can't afford that, just know that I have another course. It's called Find Them, Fund Them, Run Them. It's a 3-step process. It's less than $50. And if you're on my email list, you should be getting emails about that, so you can take advantage of it. And then I had the doors open to turnkey acquisitions for the month of May. It was closed. It's now closed. And I will not open the doors to Storage Nerds, which is the coaching program, until probably like September, October-ish. So, but if you are interested in coaching, then you could just get on the wait list. And then once the doors open, I'll let you know. I typically open my doors for the turnkey acquisitions twice a year, and I open Storage Nerds up twice a year because that's all I can handle. Whoever comes into the coaching program, like I want to help them buy a storage facility, so I really need to be focusing on that. So that's kind of how it works. In the meantime, if you really want to get started in self-storage investing and you want like an all-inclusive, comprehensive DIY online course, it's called Super Simple Self-Storage, what it's called. It's on my website, and you can get it, and then you could just kind of get started. And so that's why I put the triad here. I put, the course plus the deal analyzer. If you're really struggling with how to know if a deal is a good deal, that's what the deal analyzer course is about. Okay, it teaches you how to run numbers on commercial deal analysis. And then it shows you, like once you put the numbers in, it shows you, yes, this is a good offer. No, this is not a good offer. And then I teach you make 4 offers. You don't make 1 offer, you make 4 offers. And so that's what the deal analyzer does. It's kind of show you how to do that. And then the Wednesday trainings, which is today, every Wednesday at 1:00. Most Wednesdays at 1:00, I'm here, unless something comes up, we're on vacation or something like that. And I'll just like teach, either find them, fund them, or run them, something about that topic. So that's really what this is about. So a lot of people come to the Wednesday trainings over and over again. And so I appreciate that. And you get, like, if you're here on Zoom and you're listening to me and this is your first time, you're going to get an email that's like a feedback survey. And that survey, basically says like, what did you think about today? Is there something that you want to learn about that I didn't cover? And, so if you want to fill that out and send it back to me, I read all those because, I want to be the best coach I can be. So if you guys are struggling with something, let me know what you're struggling with so I could teach it. Okay. That's what I'm doing is just listening to my students, listening to like what's coming up, while they're doing all of the strategies I teach, and then I try to teach that on the Wednesday sessions. Okay. All right. So again, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for coming and listening to me. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna do some management stuff. And this is not like finding them, how to find, storage facilities. This is not funding, right? This is like if you want that, you need to come to the next Wednesdays. This is going to be management stuff because I always get somebody that's like, oh, it was great. Stacy taught about managing, but she didn't say anything about finding the facilities. There's only like, we only have like 45 minutes in the session. So there's only so much that I can put into a session. So I can't do all of it at once. And you really don't want me to do that because then you just be like way overwhelmed. So I just take like one little tiny thing that's happening that you need to know about owning a storage facility that you probably never even thought of. And then I talk about that in this session. That's the whole point. Okay. All right. So something that I think that everybody doesn't think about so I guess everybody doesn't, that doesn't really sound right, right? So nobody does it, nobody does. Something that nobody thinks about is pricing on your unit. And this is something that like we've been kind of going and working through for the past, like since the beginning of the year. So last year, so we own 16 storage facilities. And then I'm also partnering at a whole bunch of storage facilities as well, too. So I get to talk to all these students and see what they're doing and seeing kind of like all my partners, like how they're running their facilities. Last year, when you owned a storage facility, it was a struggle to get leased up. All right. And it's like the weird thing, like, during COVID, for like the 2 years during COVID, everybody was like, always booked and pushing rates. And like, it was like the best it had ever been. Right. And then the year after that, which was last year, everybody like occupancy really slowed down and everybody was really struggling with trying to get leased up. I mean, I would say everybody. So for the most part, the majority of the industry. Okay. And then this year in January, the market is going back up in the storage world. If people are, we're getting leased up, and I can see my students are getting leased up. I just had like a office hours with one of my students before this, and he now owns 5 storage facilities, and he is doing really, really well on occupancy. He's like making money on all of his facilities and is like really excited about that. And his occupancy is up. And he just owned the facilities for maybe like 2 or 3 years. So he just got started. So the occupancy's up right now. Okay. So last year, when occupancy was down, maybe around like the third quarter, yeah, of last year, we implemented the promo. Okay. So let's talk about pricing and let's talk about promo. That's going to be the topic today. And so, like, our promo, like, you see, like, when you go onto your phone and you type in, storage near me, look at what kind of discounts or what kind of promotions that the facilities are offering. This will help you to become aware of what you're going to be needing to do when you own a facility. All right, because the thing is like if you're not offering a promo, but everybody else around you is, like everybody's going to be going to the places that offer the promo and like not coming to your place. And this is something that I talked about with the student right before I met you. He was struggling in one of his facilities to get to get it leased up. And so like I said, offer a promo. Just offer a promo, for however long it takes for you to get to a certain percentage. Now, if you've been following me, you know that I teach primary, secondary, and tertiary markets, right? How do you spell tertiary? I don't know. So then, right? So it kind of looks like this: primary, secondary, tertiary. Tertiary means country, right? Middle of nowhere, small towns. I'm not going to get into all that because I teach that a lot. That's on the finding part, right? But just know that your facility is going to fit into one of these categories. Okay. I've also dubbed the term sub, right? So if anybody takes that as mine, all right. And so sub would be like the suburbs of the primary market or the suburbs of the secondary or suburbs of the tertiary market, right? So believe it or not, when you're in a tertiary market, it was typically around 25,000 people. There's also suburbs of those tertiary markets that maybe have like 5,000 people or less or something like this, right? So it's like suburbs. But so each of those, like your facility is going to fall into one of these areas. Okay. And so depending on which area that you're in is what your price is going to be and like what kind of a promotion that you're going to be able to offer. And then also like how often you're going to be like changing your pricing, right? And all this kinds of stuff. Okay. So let's just discuss that a little bit. Okay. Let's just make a little chart. Primary, secondary, tertiary. Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about like in this chart, we're going to talk about like what your pricing could be. I'm just making this up on the fly. So let's just figure out this chart. Okay. It's also going to talk about like your occupancy and then your promo and then your what's called dynamic pricing, which is really kind of like it falls under what's called yield management. Okay. All right. This is what you think of when you think of pricing. Okay, so if you have a facility in a primary market is like obviously a big city over like 250,000 population, and also the suburbs of the primary market. Even if a town, like if you live in a suburb, like I'm not originally from, but I'm from like Peachtree City, Georgia. Peachtree City, Georgia is a suburb of Atlanta. Peachtree City only has like 30 to 35,000 people living in it, and that's it. That's all it can fit. Like it can't have any more people, right? But just because that town has 35,000 people doesn't mean that it's not considered primary market. Because when you think of primary market, you think of like what type of facilities are there? I mean, is it like mom and pops, little tiny facilities, bigger facilities? Who's there? When you have like a U-Haul or a CubeSmart or Extra Space storage in that area, well, that's considered like mostly a primary market, right? And so the suburbs of a primary market can also be considered primary. So if you're thinking like, oh, I live in Nashville, but I live in like the suburbs of Nashville, and there's only like 25,000 people here, it would still be considered most likely primary market. So everybody knows. So primary market pricing, okay, is the way that primary market facilities run their numbers is they're looking to be at like between 80 to 85% full. If they're like 85% full, they're happy. Okay, they're like ecstatic. I remember I got onto like a webinar with CubeSmart maybe like a year ago, maybe a year, no, it must have been like a year and a half ago. And it was like all of the big wigs of like CubeSmart or whatever talking. And they were they were so surprised that most of their facilities were like 90 to 95% full. This was kind of like on the second year of COVID when everything was just going crazy and stuff. And they were just like, it has never happened to us where all of our facilities are pretty much like 90 to 95 because they typically run their numbers like 80 to 85% full. Okay. Okay. And so, but what that means, also another thing about primary markets, their pricing is higher, right? We all know that. So pricing is going to be higher, right? But also when your pricing is higher, your turnover is also higher, right? So if your turnover is higher, right, on average, let's say 4 to 6 months, people are staying at these properties, at these facilities, then what that means is that, you are always going to have to be doing marketing, like a ridiculous amount of marketing that's getting people in or, to stay, right? And, to stay, to come in as a tenant. That means that you're going to have to have like promos all the time going. So the promos like right now that we're seeing, and this is homework for you guys so you become aware of it, is just to look on Google and see what kind of promos are out. But right now, a lot of the times they're gonna do like a dollar move-in. Okay. They're gonna do like look up, actually just somebody look up like Cube Smart or Extra Space Storage or like Public Storage or U-Haul in your area, and just let me know right now what promos you're seeing. That would be great for us to just get some ideas. But they're doing like maybe 50% off, the first 1 to like 5 months or something. Like I was looking at Memorial Day promos and trying to look at like what the competitors were charging in the areas that we have. And they were like 50% off for the first 6 months sometimes, like ridiculously high promo. Like really, I'm like, how do you make money on that? I have no idea. 50% off the first few months. Okay. They also do stuff like no move-in fee. Okay. So if you have some time, just take a quick look, put it in the chat so I can kind of see what's out there. What are the promos for facilities in your area? What are you seeing right now? And this is something that I tell my students over and over and over, that you have to be looking at what your competitors are doing, like on a monthly basis, to see like what you should be doing. And so this is something that's super important. So for instance, like I have a facility in like a small town, a tertiary town that maybe like I think 15,000 people or something like this. And like there's only two owners, us and then one other owner that owns storage in the area. And there's like 5 different storage facilities. And like so we kind of like play off each other. Like we'll like if we're struggling to get people to move in, like we'll add a promo or decrease our rates. And then I'll go to that owner's page and I'll look, and he'll do exactly the same thing that I'm doing. And then when we're increasing our prices, like I'll look like a week later and he'll have the same prices and stuff like this. Like, so we're always playing off each other, looking at each other to see kind of like where we should be. So we're not like talking to each other and being like, hey, let's do pricing or whatever. But like, I'm like, oh, I need more 10 by 10s. Let me like decrease the price on those. Or like, hey, I'm really struggling to get units in, like people in. So let me add this promo or something. Okay. All right. So that's the promos. And then we have what's called dynamic pricing and yield management. And this is where like if your facility is right, let's say 80%, on a primary market, not this one. Okay. So let's say it's 75% full, 80% full, and then 85%, and then 90%, and 95% full. It doesn't have to be like these numbers, but this is just to give you an idea. Like dynamic pricing means if I'm this, then my price is this. Okay. And so and then you say for the unit, right? So like if it's a 10 by 10. So for my 10 by 10s, if I'm 75% full, my price for the 10 by 10 is $85, right? If I'm 80% full, you can increase this price by whatever percentage that you want. I increase the price by 3%, right? Or I can increase the price by $5 or whatever it is. So you can do like a percentage or you can do a number. And you can set these up depending on what software that you use, but you can set this up so that this is completely automated. And so the 10 by 10s are 75% full, 80% full, and it's just increasing as it goes. And by the time that you get to your 95% full for the 10 by 10, the price of your 10 by 10 is $125 or whatever it is. So it's like super high. That last 1 or 2 units should be like way higher than, any of the other units. So this is kind of how the primary market is looking at prices. And they have such a high turnover, right? So they have higher prices, higher turnover, a lot of promos, and then they have this like dynamic pricing going all the time. And they sit and they look at what the competitors are doing, right, to make sure that they're the ones that get chosen. Because really in a primary market, there's so much competition that you just gotta, people are just really picking by like either location or price. I mean, it's really price over location. All right. So if you have like in a 1 mile radius, you've got 5 storage facilities, then really it's gonna be price and that's it. Okay. So we have a facility in a primary market. I would consider it a primary market. Our competitor is CubeSmart. That's only just a couple miles away, but it's Leesburg, it's in Leesburg, Florida. But like we just got a review from one of our tenants, and the tenant was like, wrote this review, and he said, I just, I'm just so happy that this storage facility is like right next to the university that I go to. And I can just walk over to the university and I can just like, have my unit that I have that I can put all my stuff in. And, I'm just glad that it's like right around the corner. So, like, obviously, that person chose us because of location. It probably really wouldn't have mattered if we were a little bit more. Now, we have like, pretty good rates, but if we were a little bit more money, he would have paid for us. Right. But if CubeSmart was going to be like half the price that we are, do you think that person would have come to us or would have gone to CubeSmart, for half the price? And so that's kind of where you get into like really strategically thinking about what your prices should be when you're owning a storage facility, especially in like all these different markets here. Right. And then also, as you can see here, we're looking at the price for a 10 by 10. So, and like at our facility, like at our Leesburg facility, we have like 15 different unit sizes. Right, because the owner previously was like, "Oh, we've got enough space here to put like a 5 by 8. Let's put a 5 by 8 here." And he's just like putting like whatever sizes because he built that. It's a conversion. He built it himself. And so he wasn't really like, looking at what the market wants. He was just looking at like, oh, I have this big, huge warehouse and I want to put storage in. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of these like different sizes and just to fit everything in that I possibly can. Right. So we have a lot of different sizes, right? So if you have like 10 or 15 or 20 different sizes, you have to set this up one by one by one, unit by unit by unit to set it up so that it has these rate increases depending on how full you are or not. Okay. But then, or what you could do is you could have across the board prices. Okay. You could have just like one price and you're just like, okay, no matter what, like I'm going to have the price be this, and I'm just like going to have an increase of $5 every 6 months on my tenant or $10, right? So you don't have to do this dynamic pricing. You could just have like flat rate. Okay. Which I think a lot of people use this strategy because it's like, the easiest strategy, to do. You're like, okay, all my 10 by 10s are $80. All right. And then every 6 months, I'm going to increase that rate by $5. And I'm going to just set that up and automatic, or I just have to do it myself, whatever it is. Okay. This is kind of what you see for most part. If you see a unit that's like, if you see like pricing on a unit is like $80, $90, $100, they're doing something like this. But if you go and see a unit on a website where it's like $85.27, like they're using this percentage is what they're doing. And they're saying, okay, like if I start at $85 and I increase by 6% every 6 months, and I'm also at 95% full, the price is going to be $125.23 for this unit. And so you can tell that. So when you start looking at websites, when you start looking at competitors, you need to become very, very aware of like what they're doing. And it's just all it is marketing. And I say this over and over and over again. May the best marketer win, right? Person that understands this and the person that can implement this is going to win. And the reason why is because for this dynamic pricing right here, we make a ridiculous amount of money off of it. If you ran your numbers at $85 for a 10 by 10 versus all of these numbers right here, you are not getting the money that you would have made on all of these increases. You see what I'm saying? So like for this dynamic pricing for us, we're making like, tens of thousands of dollars across all of our facilities because we've implemented this into our system. Because otherwise I would have sold that 85, that last unit that I had for $85, right? Instead of 85, 90, 95, 100, 100, 125 or whatever it is. And I wouldn't have made that extra like, 30, 40, $50 on a unit per month if I had not implemented this in the first place. So this is really kind of a big, big, big part of like primary market facilities. And this is how you're thinking, like, how do they even make any money? They're making the money on like they're having all these promos because they know that they can increase their rents, and they're increasing their rents how often? Like every 3 months, every 6 months, right? Rent increases 3 to 6 months. You guys all hear the stories about this as well too. So every 3 to 6 months, there's a rent increase. And then the question is who's going to stay and who's not going to stay. And then they're just implementing this as well too. And that's how they're making the bulk of their money. That's how they can run their numbers at like 80% full. They're like, okay, if we're full at 80%, this is how much we're going to be making based on us doing an increase every 3 months and also implementing dynamic pricing into our model. All right. That's how primary market is thinking on pricing. Okay. Any questions, just put it into the chat. Now, a secondary market facility is a facility that's in like a standalone city that has a population of between like 75,000 and like maybe 200,000 or maybe 150,000. All these types, like for instance, I live in Tallahassee, right? Tallahassee is really kind of that standalone city that like nobody thinks about. And it has like 250,000 people, but that's really kind of depending on when the school session's in or not in. Like right now it's summer, so like everybody's gone. There's like no traffic. It's super quiet. It's awesome, right? And then like when everybody comes up, there's a little bit more traffic, but it's really not that big of a city. I mean, 250,000 people in one city is just really not a big city. And we don't really have a lot of really big players in the city. We do have CubeSmart, but CubeSmart does tend to lean towards not massive, huge primary markets, but like kind of the smaller primary market kind of thing, like smaller populations. And but then we have a lot of like bigger players that are like smaller secondary market players. And if you live in a secondary market, you guys understand this. So for instance, like we have King Storage. And like King Storage is like, I think they own like maybe 15 or 20 storage facilities in the Southeast. And they really tend to just be like, they're in like Tallahassee and like Panama City, and they're in Valdosta, and they're in like, these kind of smaller cities. And that's just kind of how they play, right? So they'd be our competition, right? Is who King Storage is. Okay. That's a secondary market. Secondary markets are a fantastic, fantastic market to get into, especially right now in the storage industry. The only issue with secondary markets is that the bigger players are starting to get into them. Like all the primary market stuff is all saturated. There's no really, unless the primary markets are expanding and growing, they'll be kind of in those areas. But like they also look at the secondary markets. They're like, oh, which cities are growing at like a 3% rate or 5 or 10%, 5% rate. So for instance, like Austin, Texas is growing at like a 5% rate. And so, all the outskirts, all the lying areas, the outlying areas of where like Austin's growing, you can see a lot of the bigger players coming into those markets as well too. And so that's kind of what's happening. All right. So secondary market's a very, very good area to get in. If you're okay with spending a little bit more money and you're having a little bit higher risk level, right? Then that's where the secondary market's going to be. Okay. Now, in terms like we are in secondary market, we're in primary, secondary, and tertiary market. In the secondary market, your prices are super important, like very, very important. And the reason why is because this is why it's so important in the storage world to look at household income and like the demographics of household income in your area. Because when people are making 75,000 a year or $100,000 a year, which sounds like a lot of money. It used to be a lot of money. It's really not that much money anymore. When you have a combined income of $100,000, people can't afford, to spend $200 or $300 a month on a storage facility. They just can't. Like that is not going to sustain itself. So secondary market pricing is typically on the lower end, but like I say on the mid to lower end. So it's really for a 10 by 10, you're going to have like, a unit that is affordable. And you're thinking to yourself as an owner of a secondary market facility, how much money can somebody afford for a 10 by 10 if I want them to stay for the course of a year to 2 years or 3 years? Because when the turnover on the primary market is like 3 to 6 months, the turnover on the secondary market is like a year or more a lot of times. And so you're asking yourself, what is the price that somebody can afford for a 10 by 10 unit if they stay in that unit for a year to 2 or 3 years, which happens quite often for all of our facilities, for all these types of facilities. And you can see, because we can see the data in our software, how long people are staying, which is really called your customer lifetime value. And you want to know, what is your customer lifetime value? How long will these people stay for you? How long will they stay? And in a secondary market, they're staying, the turnover really should be 1 to 2 years, right? If you're having them stay like less than 1 to 2 years, then what you're doing is you're not thinking about what they can afford over the course of the next 1 to 2 years to stay, right? What is that pricing? Right. And so you're always looking at the competitors. You're always looking to see what pricing they're offering so that you could be around that price. And then you're looking at what the promos are that the competitors are offering. Right. So, and then you're also implementing something like that into your business. So you're looking at the pricing of competitors. You're looking at the promo of the competitors. And then you're also looking at how long typically is somebody staying at that property or in that area at a facility for. And if it's a secondary market, you should be shooting for like 1 to 2 years. How much can they actually afford for 1 to 2 years? All right. So if you're kind of on the higher side with your prices, a lot of people run their numbers on the higher side. I really run my numbers on the lesser side. So I had a pricing meeting with my team right before this, and we looked at all the pricing. What happened is that we ran promo, it was 50% off the first 3 months. Okay. This was our promo. And so obviously, if we have a 10 by 10 unit that's $100, for the first 3 months, they're getting it for $50. And then you're really you're watching to see how long that tenant stays. Are they actually going to stay past the 3 months and pay the $100 a month? And can they afford that $100? Right. So that's kind of a question that we're looking at. And we've been doing this promo now since about the third quarter of last year. And so it's really like almost 4 quarters now. It's like, I guess we're in the fourth quarter now to finish it out. But we've been watching the numbers, and we got a lot of people to move in on this promo, a ridiculous amount of people, because we bought a whole bunch of facilities that were like severely mismanaged. We had to like really clean house and then get them leased up. So it's like, okay, what can we do to get them leased up? We implemented this promo, and we got on average, like for our Cherry Station facility, we're getting on average like 20 to 30 people moving in a month. I mean, that's a lot of people moving in, right? So then the question is, are they going to stay? Are they going to be moving out? And it's very interesting to keep an eye on how many people are moving in based on, what they're paying, and then how long are they staying for? And then, how many move outs do you have on a monthly basis for each one of the facilities? And we honestly really are not getting a lot of move-ins at all. Like maybe one move out a month or two, maybe a couple move outs a month. And it's interesting to see when they go past that 3 months, but they're still willing to pay the cheaper rate. Now, why? I mean, that should pay the full rate. Why are they paying that full rate? Because we made sure that that full rate was still going to be a rate that they could afford based on what their household income was for that area, based on what the typical prices for other storage facilities were in the area. We also made sure that that 3-month rate or that 4 and 5 and 6-month rate was the same price, if not a little bit cheaper than everybody else, right? And so that's kind of how we worked it. And so we have really don't have a lot of move outs at all, which is good. And it's just a very interesting concept that you have to do if you are in a secondary market, right? So household income people can afford is really a big issue, a big concern for us. Okay. And then also, I wanted to show. So then we set up our dynamic pricing so that there is an increase in rates every 6 months at 5%. Okay, so every 6 months, any tenant that stays longer than 6 months, they get notified 30 days before that there's a rent increase of $5 or $8 or whatever it's going to be. Okay, and we've done that now for years, and like really nobody ever moves out for that. And then we also set up dynamic pricing. We also set it up so that so that depending on how many units we have available, that's the price that it's supposed to. Okay. And so as we start growing, as we start leasing up, when we get to 80% or 90%, we're looking at those prices and we're just making sure that that rate that we're charging is going to be the same rate that, that the competitors are charging. And you have to check this like on a monthly basis, you have to be looking at. All right. So we call it the standard versus the managed rate. Okay. And the standard rate is really the promo rate, and the managed rate is really your dynamic pricing. Okay. This is kind of how it's set up in our software, right? And so then we look to see what we can be charging for this. And then we also make sure that once we hit certain milestones that we know that these people that came in on the promo can also afford this price. Okay, that's kind of how it works for us. So that's what I did today. That's what we are doing today. So we have we have a couple of facilities in Florida that like all of our facilities in Florida do really well. But we have two facilities in Florida that like we've been consistently like 90 to 95% full for like the past like maybe like since the beginning of the year. Like after the beginning of the year, we got leased up and we were just doing really, really well. So we sat and we just did okay. We sat and we looked at right. So this is kind of the unit sizes that we have. And like what happens is they call in, they say, "Hey, I need a storage unit. I'd like to get something at, the Live Oak facility." If one is not full, the other one's full, we just send them to the other one. So we kind of like use that as like, it's two different facilities on the opposite side of town. But we're like, look, this one's full. Would you be interested in just going on that one? It's the same price. And that's kind of how we work it. So it's really kind of building one, building two really is kind of how it is. But hang on, I'm getting a call. Okay, so we sat like we looked at our prices. I can't remember what they are. Let's say it's a $50, 60, $75, $85, and then like $100 or something. I can't remember what the prices were. Like this is what our prices were at our standard rate with our promo. Okay. But then on top of that, now we've been 90 to 95% full, and we're turning people away. Like we have a wait list. Like people are calling and we do not have availability. Right. So then I'm saying, okay, so let's increase these rates. Right. Let's try to increase these rates. So now we're looking at like, what is the competition charging? So the competition's like at $60. This is the competition. All right. And this one, let's say this is at like $95. And then this one's at 10 by 15s are like 110. And the 10 by 20s were like 130. Okay. So this is what happened. Like we sat there and we looked at what the competition, and the competition did not have any promo at all. No promo. Okay. So they're kind of the same, they're in the same spot that we're at. They're full and they don't need a promo. Okay. So now the question is like between these two prices, like what are we supposed to charge? Like what price do we charge? Are we going in the middle? Do we want to stay cheaper? Do we want to stay the same price? And we chose because we know that we have this wait list. and that we know these people are staying for a year to 2 years, we know that we could probably, and we could probably charge what the competition is charging right now, and even so we decided to just match the prices on every single one of them, and then see how that goes, and take it, like, for the next week or 2 or 3 or whatever, and just see, like, if we can still get move-ins and stuff. We don't really have a lot of people. What we do is, once something comes available, we just to the wait list, and we just call them and say, "Hey, we've got something available. Now's the time to move in. Are you interested? You gotta move in now." And so that's kinda how it works, but we did increase the rates on all those. So that would be like, how we're looking at our pricing in the secondary market. If you have any questions, just let me know. And then finally, we have tertiary market, right? So the tertiary market, the turnover for tertiary market is like they stay forever, which is like weird to people to think, right? A lot of people are like, why does somebody in the country need storage? They could just like park their stuff on their yard, or they could just like, they have all the space and whatever. But the truth is like tertiary market people, they stay forever. They stay forever. Just as long as they can afford it. And you're not like nickeling and diming them all the time. And this is one thing, because like I love getting reviews. We get like a ridiculous amount of reviews on our facilities, which is super important in management. But like I love looking at reviews, and it's like, the customer service was really great and the price is very affordable. We appreciate that you guys are actually like charging something that we can afford. And that we get that kind of review all the time. And so, that's something that's really, really important in the tertiary market. The turnover is going to be like longer, right? They stay longer. The customer lifetime value is going to be like, a long time. I would say, minimum 6 months to a year, but more like a year to 2 years, and sometimes even 3 or 4 or 5 years. Okay. And just as long as you keep it at an affordable price, they'll stay there. You still want to make sure that you're implementing your dynamic pricing, right? Like I've got 2 units available. These are the last 2 units that I have, and they're a little bit more expensive than the 2 units that came in when I was at 75% full. Okay. And then the promo, if you're leasing up, right? If you're trying to get it leased up, like you're struggling to get move-ins, you want to implement a promo, right? But if you're not struggling, you have to determine what struggling is. But like typically, if we're 80% or less full, like we're not offering a promo. But if we're in, so that's kind of where we're at, right? So promo is the big question. And then also the big thing is like, what type of promo do you want to offer? All right, so we see like the move in for $1, and then we see also the 50% off, and then we also see like no fee or no move-in fee. I think no move-in. And then also what we're seeing now, what we're watching like other companies do, is they're doing like a flat rate move-in. For the first month, it's a flat rate, and then each additional month after that is like is an addition is more money. So for instance, like one of our competitors is doing a $35 move-in special. Any unit, any size, $35. And then after that it goes to X amount of dollars. Okay, so you could do like a flat rate move-in, move-in special. Okay. This is something that's becoming more and more popular, and this is something that we may probably explore. All right, because a lot of people, they're like, "Hey, I can afford like $50 to move in or $100 to move in, depending on the size." And then after that, I can afford maybe a little bit less in the next and a little bit more in the next couple of months. All right, so you want to do like a really low move-in fee, and then you can charge them the regular price on the back end. And that's something that we're seeing a lot of. So, depending on what type of market that you have, depending on, how you set your pricing up is going to be a big factor in how much money that you actually make on your property. And a lot of people that I talk to, this is not in their mind at all when I talk to them about whether or not they want to get into this industry. They are not thinking about how am I going to manage the property so that I'm actually making a profit on the back end. What they're thinking about is how do I find something? How do I put offers in? How do I fund it? But the truth of the matter is this right here is how you make money in self-storage. This is exactly how you make money. So if you do not understand these concepts and implement it, then you're not going to be successful. And a lot of people I've seen over the last couple of years get into the storage business thinking, oh, I just need to find something, and get it under contract and buy it, and then everything will just come perfect. But the management part is where they really kind of screw themselves over. And a lot of people are really struggling right now. And I know this because I've called like 30, not me personally, but my team has called 35,000 storage facilities in the last year. All right. We talked to almost every mom and pop owner out there, and gotten kind of this a lot of people are really having this fear factor of like, I really was kind of running my numbers at, the highest because I bought it during the highest, I ran it at the highest price. But now I'm at like, I was running my 10 by 10s at $135 a month, and I'm at $85 to get them to move in. And during COVID, we did not raise our rates at all. We were not one of those people that raised our rates. And so we stayed full the entire time. For COVID for us, it was like not an issue. Like people were paying. We had like maybe out of like 2,000 tenants, like maybe 10 that were like, oh, I can't afford my rent or anything like this. But like other than that, we really didn't have any struggles, and we did not raise the rents at all until actually last year. We tried to raise the rents a little bit, but then this year we're really focusing on kind of like moving the rents up. But our rates that we have right now for our facilities are the same rates that we had like pre-COVID, which is actually the rates that people should have been running their numbers with in the first place over the course of the last couple of years. Okay. Does that make sense? I see a question from Cindy. So did you say 80% or less occupancy in tertiary market? You don't do a promo? Yeah. No, 80% or more is when you do the promo. 80% or more is when you do the promo. Like you need to take your promo off when you're like 85 to 90%. Like there's no reason for you to be having a promo. Okay. Promos are when you're trying to get leased up. And then also promos can also be per unit. So for instance, like one of our facilities, we are struggling to get like 10 by 20s filled. Like all of our 5 by 10s, 10 by 10s, 10 by 15s are all filled. But for some reason, that 10 by 20 is not filled. Like we have like a good, like a 10 or 15 available or something. So like we're running a special right now, which I didn't even put on here, which is the 10 by 20s are the same price as the 10 by 15. And that's it. That's the only special that we have for that entire facility. And we're doing Google ads that say like, get your 10 by 20 for the same price as a 10 by 15. And it's whatever price it is. I don't know. Okay. So that's something that you can do. And that's just the unit. So you're thinking about total facility. I need to get this leased up. I need to get new tenants in. They need to follow all my rules. So I'm going to do like a promo throughout the entire facility. Or I'm only going to do like a promo for that one unit size that I cannot figure out how to get leased up. So I'm going to figure out how to do an ad, Facebook or Google, Sparefoot, whatever you're going to be doing in order to get that. And this is something that we talk about like literally on a weekly basis because we have so many facilities. But even if you just have one facility, I would highly recommend on a monthly basis, you're looking at your occupancy, you're looking at your pricing. You're making sure that your dynamic pricing is where it should be. You're making sure that your rate increases are where they should be for each facility that you have. Okay, good. Other than that, oh yeah, what I was going to say too is that finally, if you own a storage facility and you're listening to me and you're like, this is something that I need to be implementing in my storage facility, and I do not do this at all. Like I have one price and I just like cross my fingers and hope that people come in, right? Which happens quite often. We have what's called in Storage Nerds, we have the Facility Owner Mastermind. It's a mastermind just for owners. And we sit on a monthly basis, and this is the kind of stuff that we talk about in the mastermind. So all kinds of like just all the owners just talking shop. And so like all my students, once they become an owner, they get into this mastermind, but also other owners can get into the mastermind. So if you own a facility, you're like, look, I just want to be around other owners. I want to hear how they're managing their facilities. I want to be implementing what other owners are doing as well too, and managing my facility the best I possibly can be doing. That is what the facility owner mastermind is. So you can reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in that mastermind, and I will send you the information on it. I really don't promote it very much, honestly, but that is available for any owner that's listening to me to come and just hang out with us. And over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've gotten several owners to join, which is really exciting, so that we can just share how we're working stuff. I want to know like what other promo. Like I talked to one guy that owns like 3 facilities in North Carolina, and he's like, I want to buy more facilities. I want to get into your program. And I was like, so then we sat there for like 30 minutes or so, and he was showing me all the promos and how he manages his facility and all his competition and stuff. And I was like, this is exactly what the mastermind is. So we can discuss and look at all these things. So that is available for any owner that's listening. So please reach out. All right. Okay. I appreciate your guys' time. I'm here to help you get your foot in the door, and I will see you guys at the next session. Okay. All right. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storage Nerds. Hope this informative conversation inspired you to go out there and jump into this highly profitable business venture that people rarely talk about. Get more tips on storage space investing at www.stacyrossetti.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Together, let's build that thriving passive income one storage space at a time. Until next time.